Here we can see information on the G1000 limitations. In particular, it says that the G1000 Cockpit Reference Guide, part number, and system software version that must be available to the pilot during flight are displayed on the Multi-Function Display aux group System Status page. GPS-based IFR en route, oceanic, and terminal navigation is prohibited unless the pilot verifies the currency of the database or verifies each selected waypoint for accuracy by reference to current approved data. RNAV GPS instrument approaches must be accomplished in accordance with approved instrument approach procedures that are retrieved from the G1000 navigation database. The G1000 database must incorporate the current update cycle. Use of the navigation map page for pilotage navigation is prohibited. The navigation map is intended only to enhance situational awareness. Navigation is to be conducted using only current charts, data, and authorized navigation facilities. The use of traffic map to maneuver the airplane to avoid traffic is prohibited. The Traffic Information System, or TIS, is intended for advisory use only. TIS is intended only to help the pilot to visually locate traffic. It is the responsibility of the pilot to see and maneuver to avoid traffic. Use of the terrain proximity information for primary terrain avoidance is also prohibited. The terrain proximity map is intended only to enhance situational awareness. It's still the pilot's responsibility to provide terrain clearance at all times. Navigation using the G1000 is not authorized north of 70 degrees north latitude or south 70 degrees south latitude due to unsuitability of the magnetic fields near the Earth's poles. In addition, operations are not authorized in the following two regions: north of 65 degrees north latitude, between longitude 75 degrees west and 120 degrees west, northern Canada; south of 55 degrees south latitude, between longitude 120 degrees east and 165 degrees east, region of South Australia and New Zealand. Here we can see further limitations. The COM 1/2 split COM function of the audio panel is not approved for use. During COM 1/2 operations, transition by one crew member inhibits reception by the other crew member. The fuel quantity, fuel used, and fuel remaining functions of the G1000 are supplemental information only and must be verified by the pilot. Garmin GFC700 AFCF, if installed. The GFC700 AFCS pre-flight test must be successfully completed prior to use of the autopilot, flight director, or manual electric trim. 2. A pilot with the seatbelt fastened must occupy the left pilot seat during all autopilot operations. 3. The autopilot must be off during all takeoff and landings. 4. Autopilot maximum engagement speed is 150 knots. Autopilot minimum engagement speed is 70 knots. Electric trim maximum operating speed is 163 knots. 5. Maximum fuel imbalance with autopilot engaged is 90 pounds. 6. The autopilot must be disengaged below 200 feet AGL during approach operations and below 800 feet AGL during all other operations. 7. ILS approaches using the autopilot flight director are limited to Category 1 approaches only. 8. The use of the autopilot is prohibited when the audio panel is inoperative, since the oral alert will not be provided when the autopilot is disengaged. 9. Use of the autopilot is prohibited when conducting missed approach procedures until an established rate of climb that ensures all altitude requirements of the procedure will be met. Here we can see limitations on the G1000 for Terrain Awareness and Warning System, or TAWS-B. And it says use of Terrain Awareness and Warning System, TAWS-B, to navigate to avoid terrain or obstacles is prohibited. TOSB is only approved as an aid to help the pilot to see and avoid terrain or obstacles. TOSB must be inhibited when landing at a location not included in the airport database. Use of TOSB is prohibited when operating using the QFE altimeter setting. Altimeter indicates 0 feet altitude when the airplane is on the runway. The pilot is authorized to deviate from the current ATC clearance only to the extent necessary to comply with the TOSB warnings. The geographic area of the TOSB database must match the geographic area in which the airplane is being operated. And finally, we can see placards, which will be on display in the aircraft at various locations. We have things like the control lock, we've got the fuel selector valve, indications near the fueler cap, flap placards, placards which would go on the oil filler cap / dipstick. Here are more placards, smoking is prohibited, placards on the lighting system, and then finally we move on to Section 3. So that's all there is to Section 2, and it's really that simple.